Hey everyone, apologies if you don't know me. My name's Christian. You don't know me maybe because, my wife Michelle and I, plus our two boys, we're still new to city, we're still getting ourselves settled in, but it's great to be able to do things like this for you all the same. Now, I'm a sucker for good comedy. I'm usually fairly ready to laugh at many things, and I really enjoy funny stories, or especially stories with funny elements in them. Uh, Now, I know humour is subjective, we don't all find the same things funny, but there I am convinced are some very good comedic aspects to scripture. And they normally tend to be at the stupid things us humans do, or because of the very clearly developed, I would say, sense of humour that Jesus shows that he has. Now, there's several stories, of course, that I could mention that would probably bring a smile to your face, but I'm going to do just the one for this video because it properly tickles me every time I picture the scene. And it's the story of the Transfiguration. So, picture it with me. Jesus with Peter, James and John, the three musketeers, they're all together as Jesus' closest disciples. They climb up a mountain, a high mountain it says. Maybe by the time they get there, it's dusk or it's got dark. But when they get there, something slightly bonkers happens. Although the disciples are starting to get used to slightly bonkers now being around Jesus. But Jesus starts glowing. Now it says here in Matthew chapter 17, verse 2, and he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. Now, as if that's not enough, Moses, who's probably 1300 years dead at this point, and Elijah, 900, they appear. It says in verse 3, and behold, English Standard Version, got to get a behold in there, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him, talking with Jesus, like a seriously holy huddle. Now, have you ever met a really famous person? Isn't it really hard to think what to say to them? In that moment, every topic you seem to think of just seems vaguely ridiculous. Peter clearly has the same problem, because if instead of shutting his mouth, he just shows what a plonker he is. Because he suggests, when he's at the top of a mountain with two ancient prophets who've come back from the dead, and with his leader who's glowing like a Purcell commercial, he suggests, why don't we put up 3 tents, one for each of them? It's almost as if the situation is so overwhelmingly exciting for him, he just opens his mouth and blurts. Now, we'll come back to the camping notion in a minute, but picture it. Did he interrupt them talking? Were they sort of chatting away, backs turned, and Pete wanders over and is all like, excuse me, Moses, Elijah. I mean, how would he know it's them? He doesn't know what they look like. Maybe Jesus had to introduce them. Peter, this is Moses. The whole thing is bonkers. And Pete is there just bumbling his way through it. Oh, love him. Because he suggests, of course, camping. Now, I can imagine Jesus chuckling and saying, Pete, did you bring 3 tents with you? No, he'd have to go all the way back down the mountain, find and buy 3 tents, and then get said 3 tents back up the mountain. And of course, if someone said to him, excuse me, sir, why are you buying 3 tents? What's he going to say? You'll never believe this. One's for Moses, one's for Elijah. Yeah, they're up the mountain now. And the other is for my mate, who's properly glowing. Pete is such a plonker. Now, of course, how the story ends is how it should. And I love this bit too. The text says in verse 5 that Pete was still speaking. He's mid-sentence, trying to persuade them all to pitch tents, when even God the Father gets fed up and cuts him off by appearing in a massive cloud and revealing who it is that Peter is actually talking to. Verse 5 says, a voice from the cloud said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." To be a first century Jewish fisherman and find yourself talking to Elijah, unbelievable. To find yourself talking to Moses is completely mind-blowing. But to find out that your new best friend really is the Son of God. Peter and the other two, who probably both face palmed when Pete suggests camping. All three of them just end up face down in reverence and in awe of who Jesus really is. I wonder if at this point Jesus, looked down Peter with all of his harebrained ideas, looking at him prostrate on the ground in front of him. Did he chuckle to himself as he thought, "I'm going to build my church on this loser"? I laugh at Pete, as we all can, but in the same way, Jesus is building his church with all of us losers, because we all do ridiculous things. And we all need to end up face down before Jesus, just overwhelmed when we realise who he really is and who we really are as well. Guys, there's so many other funny bits of scripture that I could have picked or we could look at. So let's let our mind's eye come to life as we read scripture and gain a full appreciation of God's sense of humour in some of these stories. Because, hey, we're made in his image. So we find things funny because he finds things funny, which is a lovely thought, I hope. Anyway, have a great day. Be blessed. Let's go and serve our King.